The courtroom was buzzing with murmurs, cameras clicking in the corners, and the heavy scent of tension lingering in the air. At precisely 10 a.m., the gavel struck the wooden block, echoing like thunder. Judge Harold Benton, a man whose laughter could be heard before his footsteps, took his seat at the bench. Before him stood a young woman in an orange jumpsuit, her wrists cuffed, her gaze steady, her silence defiant. Her name was Maya Collins, age 27, accused of assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest. The case had become a public spectacle. Some called her a criminal, others a hero. The courtroom gallery was divided, half full of reporters and spectators hungry for scandal, the other half with quiet supporters holding handmade signs, "Justice for Maya." But Judge Benton, known for his theatrics, leaned back and laughed. "Well, Ms. Collins," he said in a booming tone, "you've certainly gathered an audience." No one else laughed. Maya didn't even blink. 3 months earlier, Maya had been an ordinary paramedic in the city of Brookdale. Dedicated, precise, and unshakably compassionate, she had built a reputation for saving lives in the most chaotic moments. One night, after a double shift, she stopped by a convenience store for a bottle of water. Inside, 2 police officers were questioning a homeless man who had apparently stolen bread. The man kept saying, "I was hungry," but one officer pushed him against the wall. Maya intervened. "Hey, you don't need to do that," she said firmly. The officer, later identified as Sergeant Thomas Clay, snapped back, "Stay out of this, ma'am." Maya took a step closer. "You're hurting him. He needs help, not handcuffs." Clay pushed her back. "Ma'am, you're interfering with police work." The store's CCTV footage later showed only one thing clearly: Maya shoving the officer's arm away when he raised his baton again. He slipped, fell against a shelf, and broke his wrist. The next moment, she was on the ground, restrained, and charged with assaulting a police officer. That 30-second clip went viral. It became the talk of the town, and by the time Maya's case reached court, the public had already picked sides. Defense attorney Rachel Ward, a sharp-minded woman known for taking unpopular cases, stood beside Maya. "Remember," Rachel whispered, "don't let his behavior get to you." Judges like Benton love reactions. Maya nodded. Her lips remained sealed. Judge Benton adjusted his glasses. "Prosecution, call your first witness." The prosecutor, Mr. Leonard Briggs, an older man with slick gray hair, stood confidently. "Your Honor, the state calls Sergeant Thomas Clay." Clay walked in wearing his police uniform, arm in a sling, and an exaggerated limp. Briggs began, "Sergeant Clay, please tell the court what happened on the night of June 4th. Clay recited, "I was conducting a lawful arrest. The defendant interfered, shouted obscenities, and struck me, causing injury." Rachel stood. "Objection, Your Honor. The footage shows no obscenities, no intentional strike." Judge Benton smiled. "Objection overruled. Let him continue. It's getting interesting." The courtroom laughed, except for Maya. She looked straight at the judge, unflinching. During cross-examination, Rachel played the CCTV footage. The large screen flickered, showing the convenience store in grainy black and white. The jury leaned forward. "There," Rachel said, pointing, "at timestamp 21 hours 43 minutes and 17 seconds. Does that look like an assault or an act of defense?" The room fell silent. On the screen, it was clear that Maya had only pushed the officer's arm away. Rachel pressed on. "Sergeant Clay, did you raise your baton toward the unarmed man?" Clay hesitated. "He was resisting arrest." "The homeless man?" "Yes." "Was he armed?"
No.
"Then why the baton?" Clay's eyes darted toward the judge, seeking rescue. Benton chuckled. "Careful now, Sergeant. The lady lawyer's on fire today." The audience laughed again. Rachel clenched her jaw. "Your Honor, this isn't a comedy club. This is a court of law." But Benton waved her off. "Proceed, Ms. Ward. Don't lose your temper." Maya whispered, "He thinks this is funny. He's already made up his mind." Rachel whispered back, Then we'll make him regret it with facts. By the second week, the trial had become national news. News anchors debated whether Maya was a hero or a violent woman hiding behind morality. Memes flooded social media showing Judge Benton laughing while Maya stood silent. A symbol of injustice for some, entertainment for others. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered with signs. End police brutality. Respect law enforcement. The city was split down the middle. Inside, Maya's composure began to crack. Rachel, what's the point? He's laughing, they're mocking, and no one cares about the truth. Rachel took her hand. You can't let them break you. Sometimes the laughter hides fear of losing control. Keep your silence. It's your power. On the fifth day, Rachel called her surprise witness. The store clerk, Alex Moreno. Alex, nervous but sincere, took the stand. Mr. Moreno, Rachel began. You were present that night. Can you tell us what you saw? Alex hesitated. I saw the officer. He was angry. The lady, Maya, was trying to calm things down. She said the man was diabetic. I didn't understand until later. She was right. The courtroom gasped. Rachel continued. Are you saying the homeless man was suffering a medical emergency? Yes, Alex nodded. He was sweating, shaking. She was reaching for her medical bag when the officer stopped her. Did she hit him? No. She pushed his arm away. He slipped. Rachel smiled slightly. Thank you. Briggs stood for cross-examination. Mr. Moreno, are you aware you could be charged with obstruction for not calling the police sooner? Alex froze. I didn't think. That's all, Briggs said coldly. Judge Benton yawned. Next witness, please. This is dragging on. Rachel glared at him. Your Honor, this testimony is critical. Benton chuckled again. If you say so. That night, Rachel reviewed the evidence in her office. Something about Clay's injury report bothered her. The file stated fracture to right wrist, but in court his sling had been on his left. The next morning, she filed a motion to request hospital records. The judge reluctantly approved. The records arrived. Clay's wrist had minor bruising, no fracture. Rachel smiled for the first time in days. On the final day of the trial, the courtroom was packed. Cameras rolled. Rachel approached the bench. Your Honor, the defense requests to present new evidence. Benton sighed. Make it quick. Rachel turned toward the jury. Throughout this trial, my client has been mocked, laughed at, and treated like a criminal. But the truth has no sense of humor. She held up two photos. One of Clay in court, wearing the sling on his left arm, and one from his hospital record showing a bruise on the right. The injury was exaggerated. The report falsified. The assault never happened. Clay turned pale. Rachel played the footage again, this time slowed down, zoomed in. The baton was halfway raised before Maya reacted. She was not attacking, Rachel declared. She was defending. Not herself, but a dying man denied help. The courtroom went silent. Even Benton stopped smiling. The jury deliberated for 6 long hours. Maya sat motionless. She had refused to speak throughout the trial, letting her silence scream louder than words. Finally, the jury returned. The foreman stood. We, the jury, find the defendant, Maya Collins, not guilty. Gasps, applause, tears. Judge Benton forced a grin. Well, Ms. Collins, it seems the court agrees with you. You're free to go. For once, he didn't laugh. Rachel whispered, You did it. Maya turned toward the gallery. Among the crowd, she saw the homeless man she had tried to help. He raised a trembling hand in gratitude. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Maya faced them calmly. I don't hate the police. I hate injustice. And I will keep standing up for what's right, even if they laugh. Her words spread across the country. That night, Judge Benton watched the news replaying the trial highlights. For the first time in years, he felt something uncomfortable, shame. The laughter that had once filled his courtroom now echoed hollow in his mind. He opened his old law textbook and stared at a line underlined in red. Justice is not about power. It's about balance. He closed the book silent. A year later, Maya founded the Collins Initiative, a nonprofit offering legal and medical support to people wrongly accused while trying to help others. Rachel joined as legal counsel. In her first public speech, Maya said, "Some courts echo with laughter, some with anger, but the ones that matter echo with truth. And truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs to stand." Her words drew thunderous applause. Across town, Judge Benton quietly retired. His portrait was removed from the courthouse wall after multiple complaints about bias and misconduct. 2 years later, a new judge presided in Courtroom 7. On the wall behind his bench, a plaque read, "In memory of those who stood silent in the face of laughter and still spoke the truth." Maya sat in the audience that day, dressed in professional attire, watching as the same homeless man, now sober, healthy, and working as a counselor, gave testimony in another case. She smiled. Justice, she thought, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through the cracks of a broken system, waiting for someone to listen. As she left the courtroom, the echo of Judge Benton's laughter drifted in her memory, not as pain anymore, but as proof of how far she'd come. Years later, journalists still discussed the People versus Maya Collins in law schools and newsrooms. It became a landmark case symbolizing the fight against institutional arrogance and the power of composure under humiliation. When asked in an interview how she survived the mockery and the pressure, Maya simply said, "Silence is not weakness, it's control. And sometimes, silence wins the loudest arguments." She walked away from the cameras, her reflection framed by the courthouse doors, sunlight pouring in. No cuffs, no laughter. Just the quiet dignity of a woman who turned injustice into strength.